a real private dick anymore, a professional like me. A guy who does the detective work nobody else wants to do. A guy who wears hats and walks around in a black and white world. I began contemplating a more profitable line of work, like politics.
We are the show you want to know. It's time to talk to you.
All right, folks, good afternoon and welcome to the Wednesday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show, where we bring common sense conversation to the common sense citizen. It is Wednesday, February 19th, 2025, and just over, the amount of stuff this administration has done in a short amount of time. I can't believe we're just about a month out. Well, folks, we've got a jam-packed show for you today, so buckle up because there's no shortage of insanity in the world right now. But thankfully, we've got some serious wins to talk about as well. Let's do some housekeeping first. You can, of course, join the conversation for the next hour at 508-871-7000. That's 508-871-7000. Or text line. That's up and running. Easy to text, 617-297-8388, 617-297-8388. Text it like you would anyone else. It appears on the screen here in real time, and we try to work it into the conversation or let your 2 cents get part of the show. You can also tune in to AM 830. You can also listen to the station 24/7 on the TuneIn app. That's right. WCRN, along with thousands of other radio stations, are streaming 24/7 on the TuneIn app, which means you can take us anywhere. Your device, cell phone, tablet, computer, doesn't matter. I love it because you get in and out of the car. You don't miss anything. Just jumps from the car back on. Good thing. I stream my show on multiple platforms. My social media platforms are Joe Mangi Show, MANGI, Facebook, X, Twitch TV, LinkedIn profile, and Rumble TV in real time. We're also streaming to the WCRN 830 AM Facebook page and YouTube channel there. So you can watch it on the station Facebook page, my show Facebook page, all kinds of ways to watch it. We see the viewers clicking up. So join us here on the Wednesday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show on AM 830 WCRN. Today, behind the glass, flying the board today, as I broadcast from our palatial but not overly ostentatious studios here in Westboro, high atop the Carberry Towers. So let's start with this. President Trump just reminded America why they elected him. And they did elect him with a very clear message. He was not vague about what he was going to do if he got elected. The media tried to bait him into some phony drama about Elon Musk and Doge. But instead, Trump did what he does best. He exposed the swamp. He pulled out his list of receipts, laid out just how corrupt Washington is, and put the bureaucrats and career politicians on notice. This wasn't just a speech here, folks. This was a moment. When's the last time we saw a president stand up to the podium and tell the American people exactly where their tax dollars are being wasted? And I'm getting a kick out of the politicians. First of all, some of them actually going on TV and saying they don't believe this. They don't believe the stuff that Elon Musk is posting on the Doge X account. Again, it's all documented. It's a paper trail. Math is math. What don't you believe? You don't believe this is happening to you is what you don't believe. And Congress, you don't like this because, including Republicans, because you're the purse strings. You've allocated this money. You haven't checked where it's been going. You haven't said, wait a minute, this is a lot of money. Can anybody tell me actually how is this being used? What is it going to? You haven't done your jobs. You've been entrusted with the tax dollars of American people, and you have let it be wasted, scammed, fraud. You're paying people that are 150, 180, 200, 300 years old. How does that even happen? Millions of dollars to countries for LGBTQ plays and sex operations and comic books and condoms. That is not the role of the United States taxpayer. We got all kinds of charities and private organizations or charitable organizations that can do those kinds of things. And if you don't take so much of our tax money, we have plenty of money to donate to these, because one thing about American citizens, we are very generous and we always rise to the occasion. And so while Trump is over here cleaning up Washington, what's happening up in Maine? Well, just another male athlete sweeping a women's championship because the state refuses to enforce Trump's executive order protecting girls' sports. That's right. Despite the White House laying down the law, Maine's leadership decided, I know better. We know better. A biological male just took some of the state's titles in the girls' pole vaulting. And the media wants you to shut up and accept it. Well, I've got news for them. We're not shutting up about this. And I don't know if you saw, I would love to hear the feedback or take on Sean Hannity's White House interview with Elon Musk and President Trump last night. And it was very interesting because I think one of the takeaways I had watching that, and I kind of wondered about this in the past, when a president signs an executive order, is there any mechanism to enforce it? Apparently, there really isn't. As Trump said, you sign these, in his words, these beautiful, beautiful executive orders, and you just assume people are going to follow them because, well, it's a presidential executive order. But they don't necessarily do that. So one of the things Elon Musk brought up to him is, you're doing this, but nobody's paying attention or no one is following it. So part of Elon Musk's role, apparently, is once an executive order signed, he's going to those agencies that it is applicable to and saying, well, you got to do this now. Are you doing it? And apparently, was it the Social Security administrator resigned because of a clash there? She didn't like this. Well, this whole idea of you don't like bureaucrats because when you get down to it, he's as a special federal employee, whatever it is, he's appointed by the president, which is a pretty significant federal type of job. You have no problem with hundreds even millions of other bureaucrats having access to your information all the time. Bureaucrats deciding things about your life and how it affects you. The bureaucratic state. Elon Musk pointed this out. When you've got just hundreds of thousands of these bureaucrats, faceless, nameless, with autonomy, making these decisions, and then you've got agencies that are making regulations with the force of law. It's a bureaucratic state, not a democracy. And speaking of shutting up here, have you seen what's happening in California? They're trying to make it a crime to misgender a dead person. Yeah, you heard that right, not a joke. You can literally go to jail for referring to someone by the wrong pronoun after they've already passed away. I mean, folks, this is beyond a parody. It's a Saturday Night Live skit. Meanwhile, people are rampantly looting stores. Fentanyl is pouring over the border. And the state is bleeding taxpayers. But yeah, misgendering a corpse is a big priority to them. So is creating the anti-Trump money or the Trump-proofing money. Well, homes and businesses were being burned to the ground. All right, let's talk about another issue that's flying under the radar but has massive implications for the fight for digital privacy. There's a push from big government to monitor everything you do online. And if you think that's about protecting people, think again, it's about control, guys. Control over what you say, where you go, and even what you're allowed to think. And here's the kicker. They are partnering with big tech to make it happen. Now, there's been this shift in the big tech, too, right? They were all very Democratic and Kamala, or at least Biden and Obama, heavy. But now they've realized that the Democratic Party hasn't been great for their business or for the future of tech. They're slow to move and respond, and they just don't get it. I mean, I'm amazed at the fact that so many members of Congress are so far behind the tech ball that they just don't know what's going on. I'll talk about this in a second, too. I mean, Jim McGovern made his first Instagram post the other day. But they have to hire these consultants to tell them how to use social media. What's the average age of a person in Congress? It's got to be significantly high. I mean, I know there's some new blood in there, but even new blood that going in, we got a couple people, right, late 20s and 30s in there, AOC, and I think there's a very young Republican female. But you counteract that with the majority of the 70, 80-year-olds in there. What's the average age? I'd like to know what that is. And of course, let's not forget the border crisis. Well, DC politicians are wringing their hands. The reality on the ground is worse than ever. Cities are buckling under the weight of illegal immigration. Crime is spiking. Democrats are still refusing to enforce our laws. But now, under Trump's leadership, we're seeing real movement on securing the border once and for all. The question is, will Congress get on board, or will they keep protecting the status quo? And a lot of these executive orders need to be codified by statute. They can be undone by a future president. Congress needs to look at those executive orders, turn them into bills, then turn the bill into legislation. Not saying that it can't be done down the road, but it literally takes an act of Congress to undo them. So we need to use an act of Congress to codify these executive orders and make sure they're in place. Now, it sounds stupid, but yeah, you have to make a law to follow the law. These laws are already in place, folks. And that's Trump hasn't created any new laws here. All he's done and all he's doing and all Tom Homan is doing is following the law that Congress has put in some cases 200 years ago or so. So it's just enforce the laws we have when it comes to immigration and stop with allowing the left to redefine meanings and redefine what it is to be an illegal alien. Just stop that and enforce the laws. So, folks, today's show is hopefully going to be a little interesting, a little fiery. We're breaking all of this down, taking your calls, cutting through some noise. So if you're a little fired up like I am, stick with me because we've got a lot to get into. So let's talk about Trump's takedown of corrupt government. He listed some of the receipts here, which we'll get into in next segment or so. Just to remind you that you can join the conversation here for the next hour or the remaining of this hour at 508-871-7000. 508-871-7000, and our text line is at 617-297-8388. Sorry about that. Yeah, not a lot of sleep last night. 617-297-8388 for the text line. Text line is up and running. Last text, we had some come in about, JP Morgan removed all the DEI garbage from their annual report. More victories. That's from 873. And 57.5H or R65 Senate old foe. Don't know what those are. We'll have to look up what those bills are. All right, folks, we're going to take our first break here on the Wednesday afternoon edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show on AM 830 WCRN Radio Central. Stick with me and join the conversation at 508-871-7000. That's 508-871-7000. I'll be back in 2 and 15 in this case.
Looking for guidance as you face a future on Social Security? It's hard to figure out on your own, but MedicareAdvisors.com is a completely independent insurance agency specializing in Medicare insurance planning. We work with the top insurance companies so we can offer our clients the best coverage for them. We design plans with a focus on low costs, which we combine with personalized insurance advice aimed at helping our clients make better informed decisions. Russ Swallow is a certified senior advisor and a licensed insurance advisor. He's been helping clients with their health insurance needs since 1970. And after a failed attempt at retirement, he created the Medicare Advisors in 2014. Russ concluded that since Medicare is health insurance, he might as well put his almost 50 years of health insurance experience to good use, as 75,000 people reach age 65 in Massachusetts every year, and they can use some help. Call Russ today at 508-831-0805. Put his years of personal experience to work for you as you try to unravel the complexities of Social Security.
WCRN, where the left and the right meet in the middle. Whether you lean left, lean right, or just want to stay informed, WCRN has you covered with diverse voices, lively debates, and thought-provoking discussions. You'll hear it all right here. Radio Central.
Looking for a fitness experience that's more than just a gym? Welcome to Atlantic Athletics. Our coach-guided approach ensures that you move safely while you train. Personalized nutrition advice and 5-star ratings on Facebook, Yelp, and Google set us apart. Located in Leicester, Massachusetts, we invite you to a free, no-obligation assessment. Call 508-892-8085. Atlantic Athletics, where you're not just a member, you're family. Let's become the best version of you together.
Paul Harvey captivated us with his unique blend of wit, curiosity, and that unforgettable sign-off. WCRN Radio is proud to reintroduce Paul Harvey and the rest of the story. Weekday mornings at 9, only on WCRN.
All right, folks, welcome back to the second segment of the Wednesday afternoon edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show here on AM 830 WCRN Radio Central, where we're live streaming on the TuneIn app 24/7. Do me a favor, when you load that app, if you don't already have it, you punch in WCRN, you're going to see our cool logo. Hit the like button. We know you're there. Plus, then we're very easy to find. And also, you can get my show as a podcast wherever you get your podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, TuneIn Radio, Google Play, etc. And, of course, you can always go to Facebook or Rumble and watch the streaming as well. I see some people have joined us watching the streaming either on my Facebook at Joe Mangi Show, Joe Mangi Show, which is also X, Twitch TV, LinkedIn profile, and Rumble. We did.
Yeah, did you say Jim McGovern posted something?
Well, he had a coffee the other day, and I'm gonna cover this.
Did he mention one good thing that the delegation has done? We still haven't gotten any calls on that.
No, he got a lot of supporters that weren't happy with the Democrats' performance and so forth. So I'll get into that. I want to talk about the Trump thing first, and we'll get into this coffee that Mr. McGovern had. Let me see if maybe I'll go into that right now. I look for my notes. Yeah. So the left's panic in the reality of Trump's America is what we're facing here. All right. The reaction from the left, outrage, hysteria, full-on meltdown mode, case in point. So we had 500 progressive packing a church in Northampton to wail about the state of national politics. Their fury directed not just at President Trump, but at their own party for not being radical enough. Now, Congressman McGovern might have thought this is going to be a no-brainer coffee for him because he obviously reached out to his base in support. But let's unpack this, because what we have here is a prime example of what's wrong with today's Democratic Party and why they keep losing, as lately anyway. So Congressman Jim McGovern held a town hall where his constituents didn't just express this outrage at Trump, which we know they have, because like Whoopi Goldberg said the other day, she doesn't want to speak to any Trump supporters. She don't need to. She don't want to. Maybe that's why you're in this bubble. You can't get out of it. Talk to them. Not everybody who voted for Trump thinks that Trump is wonderful or likes everything he says. But you can't argue with the policies. Not when he's on the 80% of all the polling on almost all of his topics. So they attacked him, meaning Jim McGovern, and the Democrats, for failing to stop America First movement. Now, I don't know how you justify a policy that puts your country first. I question your loyalty to your country if you do. But these activists were upset that Democrats are bringing knives to a gunfight, as one person said. But let's be honest, what they really mean is that they want more radical policies, more government overreach, and more lawfare against their political opponents. That's in essence what they're saying. They're admitting their party is powerless, and that's because for all their talk about democracy, they refuse to listen to the American people who rejected their policies in 2024, resoundingly rejected those policies, folks. And one of the biggest complaints from the audience, that Massachusetts is no longer a sanctuary state. McGovern tried to frame this as pragmatic move to protect federal funding. That's the way it goes, right? Elections have consequences. In other words, when push comes to shove, even progressive Democrats realize that open border policies are financially unsustainable and politically toxic, for that matter. Meanwhile, they continue to call for billions of taxpayer dollars to house and support illegal immigrants, while American families struggle. That's why Trump won and why he'll keep winning. And he knows that he has to do a lot. I mean, he's proven that already, because he has no guarantee of having the majority, as slim as it is, in both chambers of Congress in the second half of the second term. There could be a flip in the House. There could be a flip in the Senate. There could be a flip in both chambers. And then he will actually be dealing with impeachments and censures and all kinds of stuff, because they don't base it on the merit. It's just politically driven, as we saw in the first term. And this Green character from Texas, who already brought up impeachment, did it, 2 or 3 times in the first term? It's a joke. Listen to some of these people, and it's, I don't know what it says more about them or more about the people that elected them. Half of them sound slow when they talk. I don't get that. But meanwhile, they continue to call for just billions of tax dollars to house and support illegal immigrants rather. While American families are struggling at the gas pump, at the grocery store, insurance. The callers brought up a couple times on the show this week about the gas prices, meaning natural gas for heating your homes, for cooking, the electric bills. That's why Trump won. The left is fuming over spending cuts in President Trump's proposed budget, claiming they will cut social programs. Not all social programs, by the mere fact of being a social program, has merit. We're back to this name thing. If you call it a social program, we can't touch it. No, not all social programs are created equal. And that's why I've always called for, I'm going back to 1992 when I was running for state senate. I wanted sunset clauses attached to every piece of legislation that spent a dime. And I think all legislation should have this, that they go away. If they require money to be spent, they automatically just disappear unless they're renewed by the legislature, which means the legislature has to pull it back up. They have to debate it again. And they have to vote to continue to fund it, because they have evidence, they have testimony that it was worth the money, that it's something worth doing. Or at least that should be the way it works. It does 2 things. It lets things that don't work, money that isn't being spent effectively, to go away. And it also occupies the legislature bodies to stop making rules and laws that are stupid, because they'll be their time's occupied with examining the existing spending. We don't need them coming up with ideas for a lot of new stupid legislation. So let's get real. Our government has been spending recklessly for decades. Trump has finally taken steps to rein in waste and prioritize American interests over globalists' agenda. And the Democrats say they want to fight fascism. But what they really want is a government that controls every aspect of your life. Have they looked up fascism, by the way? Your healthcare, your income, your education, and now your social media. Look what we see going on in Britain, in Germany. Now they're busting into people's homes, 10, 12 offices deep, because of a meme or a less than glowing thing on social media for expressing your opinions. But McGovern's media hypocrisy is there. He openly admitted that his side is losing the messaging war because people are getting their news from alternative platforms instead of legacy media like CNN and the New York Times, who have been another branch or a branch of the DNC. And now we're finding out USAID gave $29 million to the New York Times. There should be a firewall there. Free press shouldn't be getting any money from government at all. Beyond appearance of a problem, it should be. So his solution, yeah, brilliant, McGovern. infiltrate these platforms. Translation, Democrats want to flood conservative spaces with propaganda and push their censorship agenda even further. They're calling that the DNC needs to make their own Joe Rogan. Here's the thing. You had Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan was actually a Democrat. But Joe Rogan asks questions. He has all kinds of guests on his show, from politicians to innovators, to business people, to activists, to everything. And he asks simple, logical questions. And you're not going to get that far infiltrating these platforms, because look what happened when Elon added the community notes to X. The old expression, right? Bad news is halfway around the world before good news gets out of bed. I don't know if that's the case as much, because now you see something come up there that would have got legs and traction before, and because of community notes in the new Twitter or the new X, it gets beaten down before it gets to get around the world. But here's the truth. Americans don't trust mainstream media because it's been caught too many times lying. That's why independent journalists, podcasters, and alternative media is thriving. I have said this for years, folks. You need to get your news and your media from multiple sources. And if you are a CNN watcher, watch Fox or Newsweek or Newsmax, rather, once in a while. And if you're a steady diet of Fox and Newsmax and OI America Online News, watch CNN and MSNBC to see what they're saying and how they're framing things. So this town hall was a glimpse into the unraveling of the Democratic Party, as far as I'm concerned. They're divided, disillusioned, and desperate. They don't understand why the American people rejected them, and they refuse to admit that their radical policies on immigration, crime, and economy are what led to their downfall. Meanwhile, Trump is delivering on his promises, restoring order, putting America first. That's why he won in 2024, and that's why the left is panicking. So stay tuned, folks. We're just getting started. This is Common Sense Conversation for the Common Sense Citizen, and this is AM 830 WCRN Radio Central. What do you have to say about this? 508-871-7000, 508-871-7000. And, of course, the text line is up and running at 617-297-8388. Lines open and available. We'll check it right before I go. Average age of Congress. I don't know. The texter text me that. That's what I'm asking. Does anybody know the average age of Congress? That would be a good thing to know. All right, folks. We're going to take our mid-show break here in the Wednesday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show on AM 830 WCRN. 508-871-7000 to join the conversation. 508-871-7000. Back in 2 and 10.
Time now for the forecast from the Boston Independence Group Weather Center. Call Jerry Doherty today at 877-772-1776. Retirement is within reach.
I'm meteorologist Sherry Spear, and here's the latest Boston 25 weather on Radio 830 WCRN. Chilly and bright for today. We've got highs in the 20s. It's not going to be as gusty as the past few days, but it's still pretty cold out there. Now, into your forecast tomorrow, it's another day with a high around 29 or 30 degrees. Most of you will stay dry, especially north and west of Boston, but southeastern Massachusetts is expected to see some light snow. In fact, the Cape in particular, 1 to 3 inches of snow expected between afternoon and evening tomorrow. I'm meteorologist Sherry Spear, and you can hear Boston 25 live for the morning drive weekdays on AM 830 WCRN.
More live and local radio is next. Stay tuned to Radio Central 830 WCRN.
Looking for guidance as you face a future on Social Security? It's hard to figure out on your own. But MedicareAdvisors.com is a completely independent insurance agency specializing in Medicare insurance planning. We work with the top insurance companies so we can offer our clients the best coverage for them. We design plans with a focus on low costs, which we combine with personalized insurance advice aimed at helping our clients make better informed decisions. Russ Swallow is a certified senior advisor and a licensed insurance advisor. He's been helping clients experience with their health insurance needs since 1970. And after a failed attempt at retirement, he created the Medicare Advisors in 2014. Russ concluded that since Medicare is health insurance, he might as well put his almost 50 years of health insurance experience to good use, as 75,000 people reach age 65 in Massachusetts every year, and they can use some help. Call Russ today at 508-831-0805. Put his years of personal experience to work for you as you try to unravel the complexities of Social Security.
All right, folks, welcome back to the second half of the Wednesday afternoon edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show here on AM 830 WCRN. And you can join the conversation at 508-871-7000. That's 508-871-7000. Works real simple. You call up. Ken is on the line now. Ted got him all set up. What say you, Ken?
Good afternoon, Joe. I have your answer. House 58, Senate 64.
House in 64.
Wow, that's old, man.
Wow.
Yeah, you have to get near retirement before you can go to Senate.
You know, there is a bill, and I didn't know it was going to him. I'm trying to remember. It's been around for a while, but it won't get through. But part of it is it's to do a lot of things. You know, term limits. It also says that members of Congress, they can't have, they don't get retirement for serving the term there, which would encourage them not to spend 30 or 40 years there, right? And all of the money in that special congressional retirement gets moved over to Social Security, and they get Social Security like everyone else. And they also get the same health care other federal employees get. They don't get the Cadillac version. And the kicker here is they have to follow all of the laws that they pass. And I don't know if you know that. I'm sure you know this, Ken, but I don't know if all the listeners know that often Congress passes laws and they exempt themselves from the laws they pass. So, you know, who was it that said, you know, the Republic will stand until they realize they can vote themselves raises, and that's the fall of the Roman Empire. So Congress needs to be reeled in with the power that they're giving themselves, I would think.
Yeah, you don't think they'd want to be under Obamacare, do you?
Oh, my God, no. No, I wouldn't mind having the health care package that even a freshman congressperson has. I don't think they worry about things too much.
But I can say I did my part 2 years ago, voting for Caroline Leavitt at the age of 25. Not my age for her, obviously.
Mm-hmm. She ran?
Oh, yeah, of course.
Okay.
My district. Absolutely.
All right. Awesome.
She was actually, here's the interesting thing, she was projected to win by 6 points by St. A's, where she graduated in a poll a week before the election. And she ended up losing by 7.
Yeah.
A little bit off. Maybe I may have been biased.
Yeah. Yeah. What happened there? I didn't get into this story about Florida inconsistency. And if I have time, I'll try to do it today. But yeah. Kevin, what else is what's on your mind? First of all, did you see the Hannity sit down last night?
No, I rarely watch Fox.
Okay. Well, I don't actually watch Hannity. I mean, I like him. I'm not saying I like Hannity. I just, at 9 o'clock, I've had enough news by 9 p.m.
I watched it at 6:30 this morning.
Yeah, I might do that. Well, I have all that on DVR stuff if I want to watch, but I watched it live. And it was interesting because who was it that Morrow, I think Paul Morrow said this. We've had vice presidents since the inception of the Republic, but this is the first time we have a president with a sidekick. So it really came off that way. You had these two billionaires sitting there, and even Hannity said, Elon's a lot richer than you. I know you don't like to hear that, but by 100 times richer. What's Trump worth? Like $4 billion, and Elon's $400 billion as of the November, I think.
My favorite is when Hannity said, "Didn't you just sue him for $10 million?" And somewhere in the conversation he said, "Yeah, but we gave him a break."
Yeah. Yeah. Well, he sued pre-Elon. He sued Twitter, and they settled on $10 million, which Trump said it could have been a hell of a lot more. I mean, he got $15 million out of Steffi Stephanopoulos' network, and now You've got the 60 Minutes. He's suing for, I think, hundreds of millions on that one. So we'll see what happens.
And CBS, day after day, is digging themselves a deeper and deeper grave. Oh my God!
Well, the FCC new commissioner put the hammer down on them to release the full transcripts, because again, I know I've said this in the past, but let me remind folks: all radio stations and TV stations, we don't own licenses. We own the equipment, and we just get the license for a term. The airwaves, radio and TV, belong to the people. They don't belong to a company. We saw that happen in Boston when NBC had to switch affiliates because they couldn't get their license renewed. We go through a license renewal every 7 years.
We pay for the privilege.
And yes, we do. And these frequencies belong to all of us, but companies, radio stations, TV stations, they get to use them for a certain amount of time, and they meet certain qualifications, and they meet certain things, and we renew the license, and we get to use it. So if you misuse those airwaves, if you collude, if you use them in a way like conspiring with other networks or other stations, that's not what they're supposed to be used. If you give a politician 4 hours of airtime during a campaign and you don't allow the opponent to either buy the same airtime or be on the same equal type of show or an amount of time, that's in violation of the fair doctrine. So they did this. They absolutely, in my opinion, ABC 60 Minutes, right? Gave basically what I would call an in-kind contribution to the Kamala Harris campaign by totally removing her circular, non-sequential or non-sequitur type of answer and replaced it with something she said 20 minutes later, so it looked like she at least understood the question a little bit. Totally an in-kind contribution. What say you, Ken?
Yeah, it's so obvious. It's hard to refute, and seriously, they don't even attempt to.
No.
They have grasped that we're U.S. Pravda. There are others like us. We're going to grab a paddle and row as hard as we can in the Marxist direction, and that's just the way it is. On your previous discussions too, I'm getting to feel really sorry for elected Democrats, because really they've become hostages to their radical followers.
Yeah, but by their own making.
I mean, literally, was it any surprise that your two senators, Warren and
Markey? Did you see Markey out in Boston the other day?
Yeah, both of them were yelling like crazy. Well, they hear it from the constituents. They have to. The constituents.
They have to. It's performative. They have to. They know it's nothing. First of all, Markey, get a haircut, man. What was that about? You look like you wandered away from the old folks' home. Just clean it up a little bit. But they're yelling with the bullhorns and it's what are you doing? What are you doing? Look at the split screen, right? You got Trump at NASCAR, and you got Trump at the Super Bowl, and doing these impromptu, talking about just billions of dollars that they found wasted. This guy against Democrats who are rudderless, leaderless, right? No one's really. I know they elected this new Jamoke, this kid Hogg, which is incredible. Like, he just kind of got in a little trouble because it's one of the first things he did when he became deputy chair of DNC. He used their records to fundraise for his organization. And they're like, no, you're not supposed to do that. So if you do the split screen, Ken, what are they up against? I mean, talk about flooding the zone every hour.
No, but see, here's the picture. You had Donald Trump emerge on the scene nearly 10 years ago. He figured out through his marketing skills that there was a big opening in the political front, that there are tens of millions of people whose wishes of what they wanted to see for government were not being delivered. He listened. He told them, I'll do what you want. Basically, it's that simple. and he's delivering. And on the flip side, you say that the Democrats don't have leadership. No. They have the leadership. It's the idiots that are radical that call their offices.
Yeah.
So in other words, they have a
They're ruled by mob mentality.
right. Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's all upside down. That's why they're failing.
And Ken, the other thing
do
is,
it upside down.
let's remember, Donald Trump was a Democrat at one time. He was a New York liberal. When he decided that he wanted to get into politics, and he wanted to run for president, because, and we can go back to him in the 90s on talk shows, and he sounds just like he does today. I was watching clips of him on Letterman. I was watching clips of him he was on The View even back in the day. And he's saying the exact same thing about America is getting screwed and taken advantage of. Nothing's changed. But he looked at the two parties, and he made the conscious decision to run as a Republican because he saw that the Democrats were never going to let him get out of the gate because he wasn't going to follow that. And let's face it, before he broke the Democratic Party, he broke the Republican Party, Ken.
Well,
if you think about it, the Republican Party is not what it is pre-Trump at all.
You remember my prediction back in 2018 that one or both parties were not going to exist by the end of the 2020s. And for all practical purposes, the Republicans are the first to not exist because they exist only in name. And the Democrats will see if they don't change from this wild direction.
There's nothing wrong with going away. Look, I think the Democratic Party name is tainted. You're talking about the party of the KKK, the party that all voted against civil rights legislation. You're talking about the party that tore like, maybe it's time to regroup, rebrand, maybe drop the Democratic name and come up. But what are you going to do? How are they going to pull that off? Hey, the Whigs went away at one point, right?
Absolutely.
So, and you know, we didn't have Republicans before Abe Lincoln.
But let's not have what followed the Civil War.
No. Absolutely not. Final thought before I got to let you go, or against the clock?
No, I think we touched on many big issues, and there'll be many more to come.
All right. Thanks, Ken. Always a great call. Always appreciate it. All right, folks. Dan, you're up next, but I'm against the clock. So if you can hold through the break, we'll come right out of the break and into your phone call, Dan. So hold on to that. You're listening to the Joe Mangiacotti Show on AM 830 WCRN Radio Central. From the center of your dial, the center of New England, and the center of information, AM 830 WCRN. You can join the conversation for the remaining minutes left to the show at 508-871-7000. That's 508-871-7000. Our text line is up and running at 617-297-8388, 617-297-8388. Senate, 69. House, 58. Average ages, kind of high, especially in the Senate. But that makes sense, folks. All right, back in 2 and 10. Dan, hold on.
Looking for guidance as you face a future on Social Security? It's hard to figure out on your own. But MedicareAdvisors.com is a completely independent insurance agency specializing in Medicare insurance planning. We work with the top insurance companies so we can offer our clients the best coverage for them. We design plans with a focus on low costs, which we combine with personalized insurance advice aimed at helping our clients make better informed decisions. Russ Swallow is a certified senior advisor and a licensed insurance advisor. He's been helping clients with their health insurance needs since 1970. And after a failed attempt at retirement, he created the Medicare Advisors in 2014. Russ concluded that since Medicare is health insurance, he might as well put his almost 50 years of health insurance experience to good use, as 75,000 people reach age 65 in Massachusetts every year, and they can use some help. Call Russ today at 508-831-0805. Put his years of personal experience to work for you as you try to unravel the complexities of Social Security.
Are you ready for a change? Do you need a job that works around your schedule? How about driving your own kids to school and getting paid for it? AA Transportation is offering paid CDL training with regular permit classes that get you on the road. They have immediate openings for school bus and van drivers, as well as monitors across several districts. All you need is a good driving record with at least 5 years experience, a clean quarry, the ability to pass a pre-employment drug screening and DOT physical. If you already have a school bus or 7D certificate, join us now and earn up to $30 an hour with guaranteed minimum hours, health and dental benefits, plus a 401k. And for those experienced coach bus drivers out there, we have a position for you too. This is perfect for parents, retirees, or anyone who enjoys being behind the wheel. Call Lori at 774-361-5042. That's 774-361-5042. Start your journey with AA Transportation.
All right, folks, welcome back to the fourth and final segment here on the Wednesday afternoon edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show on AM 830 WCRN. 508-871-7000 to join the conversation. Dan has been waiting patiently online. Dan, what say you?
Yeah, I got to say, I don't feel bad for these Democrats. Okay, the Marxist Communist Democrats are social. They're Marxist Socialist Communist Democrats. They're all to the left of Bernie Sanders. When you look at their voting grades, these people they just seek power. They're sick in their minds, sick in their souls. And we got to send those in every state. When you look at Massachusetts, I mean, none of this would be happening if we had Jeff Deal. You wouldn't have Maura Healey, and a lot of the stuff that's happening now wouldn't be happening. I worked on that campaign. Jeff Deal would have been one of the best governors Massachusetts ever had. And you look at what the Massachusetts people got to wake up. They got real pissed off over a 2% tea tax, but yet they're paying excise tax, sales tax, gas tax, liquor tax, property tax. They got the casinos, they got the scratch tickets, Powerball, Mass Millions, right? And you get they got the marijuana stores bringing in revenue, and then they still want federal money. So they got to wake up. Where's the money going? Where is the money? So we need to send those into all these states, even New Hampshire, because there's a lot of corruption in New Hampshire.
We can't. The federal Doge can't do the states, but shouldn't Massachusetts and every state have the state level equivalent of a Doge?
Exactly.
I
agree. And the other thing, what I want to listen to your take on this, because I was never a big FEMA guy. Okay, I was totally against FEMA because I don't like the fact I suspected. And Trump was right. We're seeing it now. He was right that it was broken and it didn't work right. I felt that way. I kind of always felt like it was an infringement on our rights and freedoms. I didn't like it. It was an overreach. I don't think that seems to ever work. And these insurance companies got to be held accountable who canceled out in California or even Hawaii, right? So. Yeah. And if you look in 2008 under Obama, he's the one that bailed them out when they were the ones that were overspending. They were overspending. They were giving themselves bonuses, going on trips. They were bad, just like the corrupt bankers in 2008. Okay, sure. They were the ones that were stealing right.
Well, wasn't it FEMA staying in the $500 a night luxury hotels when the people who were displaced in Hawaii couldn't get a hotel? Because they're all booked with FEMA and all these people. My take on FEMA, okay, first of all, some of the mission of FEMA is very good. Federal Emergency Management. Here in Massachusetts, we have MEMA. Now, the precursor to this, we used to call it Civil Defense back in the day. I was actually the Deputy Civil Defense Director for the town of Natick for a while. And I've been to that underground city on Route 9 by the state police headquarters. And it has a significant role and purpose. However, like so many other bureaucracies and agencies, they get bloated and they do overreach. And they start taking on roles that they weren't initially meant to take on. And then we start hearing, these FEMA camps and things of that. And certain people start looking at FEMA as the arm to do this, the mechanism to kind of do things that we don't want done. So the idea of a federal emergency management agency that's supposed to be there in the times of natural disasters, like the old civil defense, I'm all for. FEMA being a bloated bureaucracy with overreach powers, not so much.
Don't the local people on the ground know the back road to get to something? And the FEMA people are from out of state.
Yeah,
Really have no
that's
clue.
that's another problem, right? You've got if you're shipping in these FEMA people, like we saw in the northwest part of South Carolina, they have no idea. They had people there. We had people. The country had people there whose entire life was washed away on ground that never had a water problem before, and they brought it up last night, or I've already heard it brought up before, because Trump tells the story. Elon came in with Starlink and dropped thousands of units right there, like immediately. They didn't have any communications. Never, there no cell, nothing. Then they were able to get on the internet and get communication. But FEMA is good for the overall natural disasters, but they should be funding the local. I'm going to still refer to it as the civil defense agencies. I know here in Mass we call it MEMA now, Massachusetts Emergency Management, but that we need. But this other stuff that FEMA's taken on, Dan, I think it's just overreach and bloated bureaucracy.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I mean, I always didn't like federal money going into the states, and we got to get involved with helping each other and helping, helping our neighboring states. Look at the Amish people who went to North Carolina and helped out, so they built a lot of little homes for the people. So
right, if they can put a barn up in a day, right, they can build somebody a shelter in a day.
Yeah, that's how we used to do it in the old days. We used to get it. You got to look at history, what we used to do that was great, and get back to it. That's as simple as that.
Well,
the governor of Florida did.
Yeah, and back in the day, when I was a kid, the church had a bigger role. It seemed like the church took care of families that were single parents, and they had food banks, and I don't know. They just seemed like the church, regardless of the denomination. It didn't matter if it's Protestant, Roman Catholic, it didn't matter, right? But people's, the people's churches were very important in the communities. And that's where a lot of stuff, because that's when you found out that your neighbor was in need, Dan. You found out through the church. Said, hey, did you know that Mary down the street, who is a single mom, or widowed, or divorced, or whatever, she's having trouble watching the kids. She's having trouble, with diapers. And the people who share the church would come and rescue and help. So, I mean, there was something, it wasn't organized, but it was direct help. It was a direct thing, community. But final thought, Dan?
Nope. Thank you very much.
All right, man.
I mean, I pretty much all I had. I could think of something, but, I just think, first of all, the people in Massachusetts got to get involved with it. They got to start yelling about their elections, but that's every state. Every state, there's corrupt elections in every state. I don't care where you go. Texas, they're all over the place. Florida, even Florida. That's where they sold the presidency. Bush Jr. sold the presidency when Jeb Bush was in governor at the time. And they have mail-in voting and early voting in Florida. So anytime you got that going on, there's some rigging going on. It's as simple as that. And go check out when the John Rutherford in the primary against I forget her name, Mary something. That was a rigged election that just went by in 24.
Yeah. I was going to go over that. I didn't have enough time in yesterday's show, and I'm going to, I'll start out tomorrow's show to talk about that. Dan, thanks for the call. Appreciate it. Yeah, this was a complete, and the candidate who seemed to have lost, they found irregularities in the voting. I'll get into that. But we're coming up against the end of the show. I just want to put look, the president, he called this impromptu press conference, right? I don't know if you caught this. And he took out a list and he started dropping cold, hard receipts on the government corruption to all of those left talking heads and members of Congress who saying, I don't believe it. It's a lie. That's not happening. They brought the receipts. Trump did just that. Well, the media wanted to stir up drama about Elon Musk and Doge. Trump used the moment to expose waste, fraud, and abuse of our government. This is why they fear him, because he's not just talking, he's exposing the game. The game, which, remember, I said this earlier, you members of Congress, you allowed this to happen. You are the purse, as we call Congress, the House. We call it the purse, right? They control the budgets. And you haven't asked these questions. You haven't followed this money. That's on you. Why are you upset? I get why you're upset, because you're looking like fools. But why would you resist this opportunity to stop the fraud, stop the corruption, stop the waste? Ted?
You know, I don't want to use her name because it curls my toes every time I use her name, but one of our representatives who was asked under oath, why are you demonstrating? Why are you making such a big deal out of this? And here's her words: because we don't know what they have on us.
Well, she said the quiet part out loud by mistake. That probably wasn't an approved response. Wow. But look, when
sold out her whole party.
And a few of them do this from time to time. And as far as Elon Musk, when asked about Elon Musk, Trump said, I don't take the bait. Instead, he called him a patriot. He said, you can call him whatever you want, a consultant, an employee. He's a patriot. And that's what a real leader does in this case. The media wants division, but Trump focused on the results. And let's be honest, Musk has done more for free speech and innovation than most of these bureaucrats ever will or can. But the bigger story, Trump's deep dive into the corruption. That's the big story. He ran down a list of the fraud and the waste and the abuse, the kind of insanity that's been draining taxpayers for years. We're talking about hundreds of billions of dollars lost to fraud. He said, we have a very corrupt country. And it's a sad thing to say, but we're figuring it out. And they're going to clean it up. And he brought some of this stuff out. I mean, some of the things here, folks. $1.5 million. Advanced diversity, equity, and inclusion in Serbia. Or Serbia's workplace and business communities. How does that become our responsibility? $70,000 for production of a DEI musical in Ireland. Love the Irish. Parents had a home there for years. I don't think we should be paying for their DEI musicals, or any musicals for that matter. And I don't even know, what is a DEI musical? Does that mean everybody who's in the musical has got to be in a certain group? Or does it mean it's about DEI? Like, what does that even mean? $2.5 million for electric vehicles in Vietnam. I don't know, folks. This wraps up the Wednesday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show on AM 830 WCRN. Back tomorrow afternoon, 1 p.m. here on AM 830 WCRN. Folks, have a great evening. Joe out.
And please stay tuned for Frankie Boy.